Let's introduce our new program on theater for students with autism.
She'd trade Colorado if he'd take her with him.
Wait a minute. I opened the wrong channel. I will switch it back. Here we go.
Welcome to Theater for You for learners with autism, a wonderful journey to learn theater by Sarah Klein, Tianxin Yu, and Yiling Yin. Here's our content, include 5 parts: group contest and goal framework. The second part is learner profile and goal specification for 3 age levels. And then we'll introduce to you our assessment design, our instruction design, and our research design. First, let's start with group contest and goal framework.
Our target population, as we've mentioned before, is learners with autism, specifically in middle school, level 1, high school, level 2, and college, level 3. Challenges for this population currently are that typical drama classes don't meet the needs of learners with autism. They may not be sensory instruction friendly, and a lot of the content assumes a lot of prior knowledge around social interaction and social skills. And we also thought that, there's been research done in the past linking theater with improvement of social skills, although we eventually ended up making social skill improvement not the primary goal of our program, because that would have been a huge scope. Instead, our program is going to be for theater with an added bonus of social skill improvement on the side. So, as I was saying, why theater for you? Our main goal is to make theater accessible for students with ASD, which is not currently something that is mainstream. And again, it's not our primary goal, but it is an attached value that social skills will be improved through undergoing a theater program. And we aim in our program to create a comfortable environment in which students can be creative, can explore, and can learn from peers and teachers, and from themselves, all alike. So, what is the context of our program? Well, we envision an after-school voluntary program, and because of this, we think that our learners will be highly committed to attending. Both parents and volunteers may be involved, but explicitly written into our program is the participation of non-ASD student volunteers who are the same age as our students with ASD. And in this way, we envision a lot of peer-to-peer learning happening. For each age level, the class will be 15 weeks, so that's 1 semester long. In middle school, we have students meeting once a week, high school 3 times a week, and at college 2 times a week. Students can take the course more than once if they would like, of course, if they're just really excited about the content. Our approach, we are especially proud to present because we think it is innovative. We are designing all of our program to be co-taught by a drama teacher and a trained social skills coach. We also, as I mentioned before, are mixing students with ASD and students without ASD for peer modeling and opportunities for friendship. We're capping our classes to be small. And this way, which is related to the big ideas, students will have plenty of opportunity for timely feedback and practice, as well as this will make it perhaps a more comfortable environment for students with ASD. We're embracing project-based learning for, again, big idea, an authentic learning context and an authentic application context. And we're going to endorse group work. Other big ideas we'd like to mention that connect to our program are motivation and project-based learning. Oh, I said that already. Okay.
We refer to the Theater Common Core standards to make all our instruction aligned to the specific goals that the state requires us to have. So there are 4 dimensions for the Common Core standards in art and also in drama. They are creating, performing, responding, and connecting. As for creating, students are required to generate and conceptualize artistic ideas and work. As for performing, presenting, or producing, students are required to analyze, interpret, and select artistic work for presentations. As for responding, students are required to perceive and analyze artistic work from the outside. And finally, connecting, students need to synthesize and relate knowledge and personal experience into making art. We feel that there is a strong connection between these Common Core standards and social communication. So the attached value for social skills can be compatible for the drama education. It is very good.
So, how do our general goals for the entire program relate to the specific Common Core standards? Let's walk you through it. General goals related to CREATE. Well, these are definitely not all of our goals, but we did take a few key ones to use for illustration purposes here. As you can see with our bright magenta thought bubbles, these are, in our goal tables, we specifically demarcate exactly that, these goals relate to CREATE. And as you'll see as we keep going on, we'll have other goals related to responding, connecting, etc., etc. Here are some more sample general goals related to present. Again, if you take a look at the thought bubbles, we are highlighting explicit examples of how these relate to the Common Core standards, and also of potential related social skills and the dispositions. Yeah.
And also for the response goals, aligned to the drama Common Core standards, which can be achieved by we walk students through videos or field trips. And also there is an emphasis on social skills in this response goals. And finally, the connecting goals is connecting the drama thing related to their daily life. As well, it is social skill related topics will work very fine.
So these are some resources that we used throughout our project. We used plenty of literature on students with autism. We used literature on drama, theater, instruction, and practice. And of course, as you've just seen, we heavily leaned into Common Core standards and examples. Additionally, we had the privilege to interview a local social skills coach here in Pittsburgh, and she has a specialization in clients with ASD, especially teens.
Learner profiles and goal specifications. We defined learner profiles in terms of cognitive development and knowledge base. On the basis of learner profiles, we further specified our goal for each age group. Every specification is closely in line with our primary goals. Because our project is targeted on a special population, so on top of the learner profiles, we define the learner development characteristics about autistic people. For autistic people, we defined their profiles in 3 categories: the cognitive development, physical development, and the social emotional development. For cognitive development, some significant difference between autistic people and typical developed people are their language, attention, and perception. Students with autism may have difficulties with comprehension and understanding the subtleties of language. Also, they may have restricted interests and repetitive behaviors. Also, students with autism can be unusually sensitive to certain aspects of classroom stimuli. Regarding to their physical development, students may have repetitive behaviors such as rocking back and forth and flapping their hands. Also, their physical activity is different from typical developed student. Researchers find that they may physically less active than their peers, but this behavior depends on the physical activity content. It may also relate it to their sensory deficiency. For social and emotional development, autistic students may not know causal conversation skills. They may not know how to behave or engage with others in various social contexts, such as the school bus or cafeteria. Also, they may have inappropriate behaviors, such as aggression, screaming, grabbing objects, and they use less gestures and eye contact for requested behavior. Also, they have poor joint attention and social interaction. Here comes our development profile for each age group. For middle school students, we focus on their cognitive and thinking skill, biological and physical skill, and skill. For middle school students, we focus on their cognitive and thinking, biological and physical, and social perspective. All these learner profiles are based on scientific research, such as Piaget's theory, and our interview with domain experts. In these slides, you can see the knowledge base for theater education for middle school students. We estimate the knowledge base based on the Common Core standard. We assume that each student in class has at least achieved the standard for the 5th grade. Here is the overall goal specification. You can see that each specified goal is based on our primary goal. And also, we closely aligned with all 4 aspects of Common Core standard. We use the numbering system to explain how it works. Here is the detail of specified goals. For example, for declarative knowledge, we will notify which primary goal the specified goal is based on. And also, based on our learner profiles for autistic people, each goal might relate to their autistic syndrome, and it will potentially improve students' social skills. We notify them in different color in the footnote.
Here is some information about the developmental and past experience mosaic of high school students with autism. So on the left-hand side, we see the developmental level. There is, from the cognitive perspective, the metacognitive perspective, and the social perspective, nothing too new here. These kind of build upon what these would probably carry through some of the middle school and college level developmental elements as well. So here we have a tendency towards repetitive behavior, dispositions towards pattern recognition, logical reasoning, picking out irregularities, difficulty with gauging appropriateness when it comes to communication and social situations, and in social realms, difficulties with understanding the subtleties of language and conversation, and perhaps even with maintaining eye gaze. It's also important to note that students with autism, there is a spectrum, so students may not experience all of these, they may experience some of these, there is a range. When it comes to past experiences for our students with ASD, they would probably have gone through the middle school component of the program, of our Theater for You program. Additionally, when we were speaking with our social skills coach, she emphasized that with her clients who are typically in high school, they really pay attention to difference more than at other ages. So at the high school level, these students would probably be especially aware and especially self-conscious of differences they experience because of their autism. When it comes to life in high school, there's some interesting policy and historical things that have happened since the 1990s. One is the inclusion movement, which emphasizes that students with different levels of development and such as autism should still be included in public education. So that means that within public schools we have one-to-one specialists and aides and individualized education plans. Now on paper that looks great, but the reality is that these resources in public schools sometimes are strained, so students will have experienced these and also experience the imperfect implementation of these by the time they're in high school. Students may like being alone, they may want to make friends desperately and they don't know how, or they may have friends. There's all kinds of areas in between. And additionally, it's important to note that students with ASD in high school are still students in high school. So a lot of the egocentrism, the goals, and the desires that come with being in high school will have a very high chance of carrying over to our students as well. Here we have an incredibly reduced goal specification table for the high school level. So as we can see here, these are all connected with the standards, and they also are connected with the general goals that we have for our entire program. So please feel free to read through these and take a look at them. Some key interesting things are, for KCO2, key techniques and practices we will be covering at the high school level are going to be Commedia dell'arte, which is a mask technique that has its roots in the Italian Renaissance, right at the start of the Italian Renaissance. Jacques Lecoq has his theory of bodily tension, so that is a physical theater practice, and Stanislavski, who was one of the most famous and foundational theater practitioners of all time in the way that we understand performance today. And students would be using his analytical techniques and his system to really develop characters' inner lives of emotion connecting with their outer lives of physicality. Also, I'd like to highlight SCR1. Students will also be covering viewpoints and bodily awareness. So those are some of the specific things we'd be covering, and as well as all the rest of these lovely things in our table as well.
To college learners' profile. As for development level, we have cognition perspective, metacognition perspective, and social perspective. The cognition perspective for college learner is they're capable to handle abstract things. Also, they're developing a pluralistic way to understand the world and try to be more tolerant to other people's opposite opinions. So drama will be a wonderful way for them to develop this pluralistic way. As for metacognition, college students can reflect for their body or their thinking physically and mentally. Also, they can handle more complex and independent tasks than high school students. As for social perspective, college learners are developing intimacy relationship with others. Also, they are developing their self-value. They are doing career explorations, and they're thinking about what they're gonna do in the future. These are all very important for the topic for the courses of drama for college students. As for past experiences, my students have already got 2 courses before in Tianxing and Sarah's sessions ideally. So they have fewer misconceptions in drama and already get basic social skills. But they still need more exposures to drama and social skills and need more practices. So taking my course is still important to them. Since they've been identified as
autistic people for a long time, they may meet extra social pressures from their peers. So probably they may be not very confident in interacting with others. So we need to blow up their confidence in my course. And they are getting into college, so their life changes a lot in a transition state. Because they have to meet new friends and live in a new place. Although it is more flexible in lifestyle and get rid of part of peer pressure that is very often in high school, it is harder for them to meet close friends. Finally, they have a strong motivation to improve their social skills because it is important for their future career development. Then let's go to the college goal specification. This is a goal table at a glance. We can see the knowledge goals in the left-hand side, skill goals on the right-hand side, and disposition goals below. As for the 4 dimensions, creation, present, response, and connection, finally metacognition. Firstly, the knowledge and skill goals are aligned together. We have body training versus emotion in our knowledge goal, and then we need to transfer those knowledge into skills, body control versus emotion. Metacognition happens both in drama and social skills. For example, students need to reflect on their interest and passion both in drama and their life. Finally, the disposition goals can promote better social skills and living quality. For example, students need to feel comfortable on a stage and also in the public, so it is compatible for the drama part and the social skill part. As for college goal specification, we can see every box of my goal, each KC is aligned to general goals in high school goals before. We have a wonderful numbering system, as you've seen. And also, the college students are required to get a higher level of command than high school, although the contents are similar, but in a higher level. Then let's start the assessment design introduction. Our general idea of the assessment focus is assessment is to give students a chance to exhibit and extend their knowledge, skills, and dispositions they have learned in class as articulated in the specific goals above. Generally speaking, we have formative assessments and summative assessment. Formative assessment often happens along the way students are studying. For example, in project checkpoints. It can reveal students' understanding and misunderstandings, review the effectiveness of teaching during the course, and evidence for effective feedback. Summative assessment often happens in the final presentation and write-up of the project. So it evaluates students learning for a longer period and provide learner profile and data to other educators. Both of them are very important. We meet a challenge that most of the drama assessments are open-ended and subjective. So we need to consider a lot about the validity, reliability, and equity of these assessments. As for validity, internal validity, we need to make the instruction really clear, provide students with explicit rubric and necessary examples. As for external validity, we need to find patterns of students' work and consult experienced educators. We also consider the ecological validity. We address more general rules in the rubric, so it is not that much related to a specific task. We also make learning materials close to real-life situations, so it makes more sense generally. As for reliability, we need to make the assessment reliable inter-rater. That is, the work should be reviewed by 2 instructions independently. Also, we need to make the assessment repeatable, so we may conduct multiple times of assessment along the semester. We also want to promote the equity of the assessment, so the rubric will be adjusted to each student's specific baseline level. We also want to make our assessment sensitive enough to different baseline level of students. So our class is in a small size, so every teacher can pay more attention on each student.
Assessment types. The reflection journal will be used during the whole course process and will be used as final reflections for students. Let me introduce each assessment types. Quizzes are used as objective test, and we use items such as multiple choice questions that can test the student ability to recall or recognize terms, facts, and concepts. I want to point out that in this project, the quiz are conducted in context. Not, for example, students will be asked to identify characters in the theater pieces, but will not be required to recall the definition of characters. For reflection journal, students will write responses to poems given by instructors. By doing this, they can record and reflect upon their observations and response to learning materials. Critique and commentary will be used to analyze both theater samples and students' own work. For theater samples, students will evaluate the core work, consider their own experience, and the social, cultural, and historical context. Students will write the commentary before the class and share their opinion in the lecture session. For the course project, instructor will have students show their work in progress at different stages. Also, we have composition in class. Instructor will assign various composition creation exercise. This course will focus on character and plot creation. Students will generate ideas and improvise in class in terms of facial expression, vocal expression, body posture, and body movement. We also have mini course project as assessments. For example, creating a theater pieces from a folk story. Students will use physical and vocal characterization to interpret through a planned improvisation. They will perform their improvisation for an audience and will reflect on peer performance using drama and theater vocabulary. On the bottom of the slides, I illustrate how the assessments are aligned with goal. For example, the quizzes are aligned with knowledge objectives. We consider the assessment triangle while designing the assessment, and also the validity and reliability issues. We discussed each kind of validity and reliability for each assessment. We also considered equity and sensitivity issues. For example, we have strategies for inclusion and differentiation. Inclusion is special design support for students with disabilities to provide equitable learning opportunities. This is especially important for this project because our target group are autistic people. For example, we support heterogeneous grouping. We allow students to self-select roles at their own ability level. Also, we have approaches that respond to individual student needs and strengths to maximize student learning and success. For example, we allow students to use different modalities to tell a story, allow students to evaluate peer work either orally or in written form. These strategies could increase the equity and sensitivity of the assessment. Here is an example of the assessment. The sample project. We provide background, activities, and detailed instruction for each assessment. And also, we have rubrics that is closely aligned with the specified goals.
For formative assessments in high school, we have a costume piece creation, plenty of composition exercises in class, critiques, annotated scripts, and midway production book submits. So I'll go more into detail with specifically the costume piece creation in the next slide, but I'll give an overview of what some of those other terms mean. So a composition, it's not like when you write in a composition notebook. What a composition is, it is a devised theater piece. It could be independent, it could be in a group, and essentially before you begin, your instructor or somebody gives you a series of ingredients that you must include in this theater piece. Then you're given a short amount of time to complete, to devise and create, rehearse, and complete your piece. And then after that amount of time, you can present your composition to the class. So there'll be plenty of composition exercises in class that students will receive feedback on in the form of a critique. So critiques are a practice when everybody gets together and shares constructive criticism and things they liked about performances. And an annotated script would be especially used in the Stanislavski module, in which essentially students will be taught a system for marking up their scripts, in which they will denote key actions, denote intentions by characters. Basically, an annotated script could be, for an actor at least, could be thought of as like a... it's like when you're like in English class and your teacher, when you were growing up, told you to write in your book, to take notes in your book. It's like that, except with a script, and your notes have performance implications for you. And midway production book submits, that would be in our lighting design unit, and essentially halfway through the unit, students would show their instructor their production book so they can get some feedback on their organizational process and kind of the way that they're planning how to execute their vision. For summative assessments will mostly entail the final presentations of compositions and their final scenes presentations, and students will receive kind of like their, not a letter grade, but essentially the qualitative grade on that by a report from their instructor that would kind of encompass what their peers have been saying in critiques for these pieces all along, as well as the instructor's own thoughts. And students would also receive a performance conduct written report from their instructor, kind of entailing, how, as a whole, the instructor thought their conduct was in class. So here is an assessment example. The costume piece creation would be a formative assessment in the mask unit. And this would be students creating a mask that reflects a connection between expression and mood. And this would happen after students had already been exposed to and explored using basal masks. And yeah, more to come about that in the instruction.
First, these are assessment along the semester, class activity participation, and reflection journals. Also, students will be asked to make a portfolio or production book to record and document all the drama related activities they've done for this semester. You'll also be asked to write drama critiques, and there are also 4 projects. The first one is character creation, related to the learning goals related to character. And then they'll do a script read through related to the body and voice, language, emotion learning goals. They'll also do a visualized storytelling. This goal is related to the story and space, time, and stage knowledge components. And finally, there are rehearsal and a final play. This is wrap up everything they've learned for the semester. We can see there is a close alignment between the assessment and the learning goals. So the knowledge and skill goals are specific in the module for each assessment, and also there are disposition or metacognition goals that apply along for the semester. I've created 7 assessment table based on assessment triangle to make the assessment more clear and explicit. You can see the cognition, observation, and interpretation. The 3 parts of the triangle are aligned to the goal. Also, I've considered reliability and validity for each assessment. For example, for this assessment, create a character, students will be asked to write a character biography. If there are 2 or more teachers in the class, the teacher will review students' work together to promote the reliability of this assessment. To make the assessment, since all these assessments are open-ended and subjective, I've made some rubrics tables to help teachers align goals for different dimensions to the assessment. And also, a template can make teachers' instruction explicit and provide scaffold to students to reduce their cognitive load. And that's the assessment part.
Welcome to our instruction design part. First of all, I want to introduce our general ideas of the whole instruction design. You will see these ideas be applied to all 3 age groups. We have teacher and social skill coach cooperate in the class. Theater teacher will be expert in theater domain. The teachers will be responsible for adapt and lead overall drama instructions. It will teach knowledge, skills in the subject domain, and organize class activities. Also, they will conduct drama assessment. At the same time, social skill coach will work closely with the teacher and the student. They will make sure that the in-class implementation of curriculum is developmentally acceptable for learners. It also will provide informative feedback for learners during the whole process for the practice. And also it will collect and analyze social skill data, and it will be further discussed in the research part. Also, the social skill coach will train volunteers. The volunteers will be part of the class. Here is our classroom settings. Student volunteers will work closely with learners with ASD. They will be in one group. It should be noticed that the relationship between autistic student and volunteers is more like friends or classmates rather than tutor and apprentice. We will try to help students build rapport and trust. According to our interview with social skill coach Wendy, many autistic students have strong motivation to make friends. We hope this classroom setting will make the course more motivating and inclusive. Also, students can learn mutually. For autistic students, they can learn social skills from volunteers, and for volunteers, they will be more empathetic. The volunteers will demonstrate class activities and also will simulate learners with ASD perform more actively. Here comes the instructional design for middle school. Although the topic is not considered as therapy, but we pick up some topics that are related to social skills that students may use in their daily life regarding their age groups. The class climate for middle school will be more encouraging and supportive. We will make sure that making mistakes are opportunities to learn, and let students feel secure to make mistakes and explore during the class. And the class climate will also be open and comfortable. Students will respect each other and cooperate with each other. To ensure the quality of the class, the size will be around 20 people, with 8 of them are student volunteers, which we have already discussed before. Ideally, there will be 4 social skill coaches in class. The teacher can divide the whole class into 5 groups. So ideally, there will be 2 volunteers, 3 autistic students, and 1 social skill coach in each group. We believe that the best way to learning acting is act. So this course will use mini projects to help students integrate knowledge components and apply them in everyday scenarios. Students will be more active in mini projects since they have to design and act characters on their own. The mini project is also a way to improve student skill using iteration and practice and feedback. The class routine will be 5 to 10 minutes beginning. Teacher will introduce the schedule for the course section, and 20 to 35 minutes lecture. It will also include warm-up as necessary, and we have group work as a big part of the class. During the project weeks, students will work together to create characters, practice acting techniques, and give each other feedbacks. And we also have wrap-up section. Teacher will summarize the class briefly and introduce the content of incoming class. All these class routines consider how to attract students, equip them with relevant skills. All these classroom routines fully considered the elements from understanding by design. Here is the course module for middle school. At the first 2 weeks, we will have team building, role defining, and introduction to theater. It is also a reflection of our inclusive climate because students can act the role they feel comfortable in a group work. In the coming weeks, we will focus on facial expression, body posture, voice, language, and their relationship with motive and emotion. And then we'll comprehensively analyze characters. After that, we will have course project. Students will have chances to adapting a character from a folk story, and they also will creating a series pieces based on their own choice. Here is the sample syllabus for this middle school student. You can see that each week activity are closely aligned with our goals, and I will notify which kind of assessments will fit in each week's activity. We also have justifications for activity. Some of the justifications are from big ideas and some of them are from references in the class. Here is a brief example of instruction. This is a part of the mini project adapting a character from a folk story. In this activity, students will learn to adapt the character from the Snow White story. They will pick up one character they like and understand the character. They will analyze the character in terms of their facial expressions, voice, body posture, body movements, and possible language for the character. They will then act to make the character believable. They will give feedback to each other and iterate their acting. At the end, they will evaluate each other and write reflections. We choose this folk story because we think the character of the seventh dwarf can help students understand how to use facial expressions and body postures to express the motive, the personality, and the emotion of the character. I believe all middle school students will be familiar with that story, and it will be easy to understand.
High school instruction will be divided into 5 modules: masks, the Cochrane levels of whole body tension, intro to Stanislavski's system, aka character analysis and conveyance, lighting design, and scene creation and performance. So in the mask unit, students will begin by learning about basal mask, and then they will continue into learning about Commedia dell'arte. So let's see. Basal masks are, so the image here, the snort image, my cursor's on it right now, that's a basal mask. They're very smooth, they're unadorned, and they were developed primarily as acting tools in modern times. I think either in the I think sometime in the 20th century. And the beauty of these kinds of masks are that the way they are crafted, actors, when they put them on, they fill the mask. So they try to manipulate their own features to look like the mask, make their voice sound as if their face truly was the mask. And as they do this, actors can then begin to explore how these expressions make them feel and how it makes them come across. With peer modeling from students without ASD with students who have ASD, I think that using basal masks and masks in general can really help students pay attention to their physical expression, experiment with physical expression, and then link these physical expressions to different kinds of emotions and different kinds of physical impressions. So that would be basal mask, then that would move into Commedia dell'arte. And Commedia dell'arte, as I kind of was talking about before, is it's a improv comedy technique that originates from the start of the Italian Renaissance, and it uses masks, and these masks convey stock characters. And I'm going to talk a little bit about one of those stock characters in the next slide when I talk about a specific instructional activity. So B, Lecoq and Levels of Whole Body Tension. So Jacques Lecoq was a theater practitioner, I believe, in the 20th century, also a contemporary performer. And he had 7 levels of whole body tension that ranged from jellyfish equivalent, which is like absolutely no tension at all the way to a bomb equivalent, where your body, if you envision what your body would be like before a bomb went off, that kind of tenseness is the opposite extreme of the whole body tension. And so students would get to explore those different kinds of physicality, how it made them feel, what kinds of emotions those portrayed. Stanislavski's system is a very methodological way of looking at a script, analyzing a script, and trying to pick out key clues from the scriptwriter for how you should be portraying a certain character's intentions, a certain character's kind of like mode apparati. It's hard to explain with just a PowerPoint and a list, but I could show you in person someday. And so basically, it's just Stanislavski's system is using script clues to help you flesh out and illustrate a character. And the lighting design unit, students would be exploring techniques for lighting human bodies on the stage, lighting set pieces, and learning a little bit about why you would want to light things strategically in a certain way. We would try to get a guest artist to come in for that. And for scene creation and performance, students would be given scenes from a show. The instructor could choose, say, for example, we did The Glass Menagerie by Tennessee Williams, a canonical piece of American theater. Students would be assigned a scene from that in pairs, and they would work on the acting in it themselves, the lighting design of it themselves, the costume design of it themselves, and then perform it to the class at the end of the module. So here's one example of an instructional activity, and this would be an inquiry bit of a lesson, right at the beginning of introducing Commedia dell'arte, in the middle of the mask module. So students would read a paragraph in which the main character is someone named Arlecchino. Using a handout with a research template on it, students would use their computers and any other resources instructors bring into the class to find out who Arlecchino is. And the end game of this is Arlecchino is actually one of the stock characters of Commedia dell'arte, and he wears a very distinct mask. So this would be a way for students to kind of lead the charge into discovering Commedia dell'arte and the concept of stock characters and stock physicality. Here we have some connected general goals and connected high school goals. In our final report, we have full tables which would explain these goals thoroughly. Here is another example of an instructional activity for the high school level, and this would be physical exploration. So this is for the Lecoq module on bodily tension, and this would be, this entire thing would probably take up the span of an entire class. And here we've color-coded a little bit. The blue text would be able to be led by both the drama instructor and the social skills coach, Orange we suggest would be led by the drama instructor. And green, we suggest, wait. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I reversed that. Blue, we suggest would be led by the social skills coach. Orange, we suggest would be led by the drama skills coach. And then green could be led by both instructors together. So you can read this explanation there about physical exploration of a jellyfish, connecting to prior knowledge about how a jellyfish moves, and then connecting to how it makes them feel. Peer modeling for how people may come across if they were walking like a jellyfish, moving through a space like a jellyfish. And again, we have the connected general goals and the connected high school goals. No, oh my God. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's happening. I'm just trying to stop recording. Oh my God. Okay.
As for the college instruction, our general settings are introduced here. There will be 4 students with autistic, 4 typical students as volunteer, a drama teacher, and a social coach in our class. The class will happen twice a week and will be a 15-week long course. Most of the courses are taught in the dancing room of a community center, so every student will have enough space to move around and performance, and there's also a mirror so students can see their facial expressions in their face through the mirror. Also, they can be taught in nearby parks so students can breathe more fresh oxygen. I also involve some field trips to theaters, drama college, or other related places. So there will be some contest-based learning and will evoke students' interest. Our class is a mixed class, co-instructor, teaching. There will be many group learning activities and a project-based learning. The atmosphere is engaging, safe, supportive, creative, and joyful. Generally, our topics will be related to both daily life and benchmark drama history, so students will learn both drama topics and how to relate those to their daily social interaction. They'll learn many knowledge and skills in drama and some transferable dispositions and metacognitions into social interactions. We include 7 modules totally for this 15-week course. First is team building and connection. Students will get familiar with each other and build trust to team in the first week, and then they'll learn the body versus emotion in the second and third week. They'll see how emotion is changed when body position changed and how to control their body and emotion. And then they'll learn understanding a character in week 4 and week 5. This is really important because they also need to understand people around them in social interactions. And then they'll learn how to control their voice and their language and emotion behind the voice in week 6 and 7. And then they'll learn the story and conflicts and drama tension from week 8 to 9. This is also important because they might need to handle conflicts in social interactions. So it is important to see the mechanism of human conflicts from the perspective of drama. And then you'll see stage, space, time, and style from week 10 to 11. Finally, they will apply all these skills learned here and learn something new related to rehearsal and drama play and produce everything to a final play from week 12 to 15. Here is a module breakdown for understanding a character. I put it here as an example. First of all my instructions are aligned to the goals and assessment. For example, for understanding a character, students need to have the cases of understanding characters and the skills of creating and acting a character. And they will have assessment to create a character through biography and performance as the wrap up of this module. And we have different types of activities involved for effective learning. All these activities are designed following the Wurzel methodology by understanding by design. And finally, there are some justifications to show my instructions approaches are justified by big ideas. For example, we have midpoint check for the mini project in the middle, so it shows we need to provide instant feedback for learners in their learning so that they can improve in their practice. We have different types of activities as I've mentioned in the last slide. Generally, there are these types of activities, warm-up activities such as yoga or voice training. This can help students calm down for the beginning of the class. We also have group activities such as role play in peers. Autistic learners often peer up with volunteers so they can learn from each other. We also have individual activities such as individual body sculpture. In these kinds of activities, it can promote learners' reflection, self-reflection. We also have whole class activities such as drama games or make the whole class connected to each other. We have lectures related to drama topic will be taught by drama teacher, and some social science, social skill topic will be taught by the social coach. We also have video session. Students will watch a piece of modern dance to understand body language. We will have discussion and presentation, and students will also attend project critique every other week so they can practice to speak in the public and to articulate their ideas clearly. We'll also have field trips such as going to a nearby theater and observe an ensemble's rehearsal. And finally, students have their own rehearsal and final play. I made many activity tables to show how the activity works. First of all, we can see in the instruction, the social coach and the drama teacher are working together. This is an example of class activity, 100 ways to say I love you. The teacher will demonstrate different ways to say I love you, probably in an angry mood, a happy mood, a sad mood, whatever mood. And then students will take turns to say this to each other as they stand around in a table. Drama teacher will organize this activity while the social coach will observe students' performance and their participation. And this is really important in instruction and assessment. And also, both of the teachers will provide instant feedback for students on their own performance. Volunteer students may demonstrate this activity for students with autism for the first several rounds. So it will be more developmentally acceptable for those students. Each activity is aligned to specific goals. For example, this activity is aligned to voice and speech training versus emotion goal, and voice speech control versus emotion goal. And that's the instruction part.
Here is the research design part for our project. We will have two focuses for the research. The first one is the impact of class settings on theater education. The second one is the impact of this program on social skill improvement. Our research are guided by following questions. Within each age group, we want to know how can the mixed class approach affect students' learning in terms of involvement, motivation, and academic performance. And how can this program improve students' social skills and well-being? For different age groups, we want to know if there are any interaction effect between students' age groups and teaching approaches. We also want to know students' social skill improvement and transfer in the long term. So let me introduce our experiment design briefly to you. For the first study, we want to know will include typical developed student in classroom improve the theater education. So we have two different kinds of classroom settings. We have homogeneous class with 100% learners with autism, and mixed class with 50% autistic learners plus 50% volunteers. So the two different classroom settings plus the three different age groups, we have 6 experimental conditions in total. And the dependent variables are academic involvement, which will be estimated by time, academic performance, which can be calculated by students' score given by the instructor, and we also will measure student motivation, social support, and self-efficacy. For experiment 2, we want to know which one works better for autistic student, social skill development. We have theater education, traditional social skill training, and controlled group. For theater education condition, we also have mixed class and homogeneous class. So the classroom setting will have 4 different conditions: the mixed class plus theater, the homogeneous class plus theater, traditional intervention, and no intervention. Also, we have 3 age groups: high school, middle school, and college. We will analyze the main effect of each variables and also their interaction effect. The dependent variable for this study are aggressive behaviors, self-expression, eye contact, joint attention, understanding of social situations. All these variables are observed by domain experts and coded by researchers from psychology department.